Good morning and welcome to the summer vacation chapters of Terror at Bottle Creek by Watt Key. Remember, have your book out, read along with me, and I'm going to read it out loud to you. Chapter 28. I crunched and huddled against the girls to try to keep them warm while the weather beat at my bare back. After a while, I became numb to it, like something in a hard shell. I held them, and it felt good not to have to think or do anything for a change. It wasn't until Francie mentioned the stars that I noticed the rain no longer pelted me, and the wind was no longer howling through the treetops. I lifted my head and saw the canopy was still, and the swamp wasn't as dark. "She's right," Liza said. "Stars." I looked up through the limbs and saw the night speckled with pinpoints of light, as cloudless as the clearest sky I'd ever seen. "The storm's gone," Liza said. "For now," I said. I wasn't sure if she was trying to give Francie hope or if she didn't really know what was happening. We're in the eye of the hurricane, right in the middle. So, Liza didn't finish her sentence. "That's right," I said. I reached out and brushed Francie's hair from her face and pressed my palm against the cheek. The skin was cold. Her lips were starting to get a bluish color to them. "Can we get down now, Court?" Francie whispered. "Not yet, Francie," I said. Y'all need to drink water." I leaned forward and bit into Liza's flotation vest and tore the fabric. Once the tear was started, I ripped around the foam panel until I had a rectangular piece of watertight cloth. I held it against the tree and caught water as it drained down the trunk. When I had a small bowlful, I cupped it and made a spout and held it to her face. "Open your mouth," I said. She did. Water trickled down the cup and she swallowed as it ran over her tongue. I waited until she closed her lips and it rolled off her chin. Then I bent down and tilted Francie's head and did the same for her. When they'd both had enough, I drank a little myself. Then I pressed the fabric into Liza's hands and told her to hold on to it. I could think of nothing else to do for us. The bear moaned and I put my light on him and saw him clutching the tree, trembling. I couldn't tell if he was cold, tired, or sick. The hogs grunted below. I didn't want the girls to think about any of it. I wanted them to keep talking, to keep their minds on something else. Liza must have been thinking the same thing. "I'll bet Mr. Bear has a name," she said. "I'll sure bet he does," I said. "What do you think his name is, Francie?" "Elmo," she mumbled. Liza and I laughed. "Elmo," Liza repeated. "I think you're right. Another Elmo." "Elmo needs water too," Francie mumbled. "I don't know how we can get water to him," Liza said, "but Elmo's used to getting water out here in the swamp. I think he knows what to do." "What about the snakes?" Francie said. "I don't see any snakes over there," I said. "You have to look," she said. "Okay," I said, "I'll look. I'll make sure Elmo doesn't have any snakes in the tree with him." I stood with my spear. The bear was about 10 feet away, and my stick was only 6 feet long. I knew there would be snakes in that tree, and I didn't know what I could do about it. But I wanted to convince Francie I'd done something. I put the light in my mouth and grabbed a branch overhead. I used it for balance as I slowly made my way out on one of the limbs supporting our platform. The bear turned its head and watched me. The limb bowed under my weight. I'm gonna start that paragraph over. The limb bowed under my weight. "Coming toward you, Elmo," I said nervously. When I'd gone as far as I could, I moved my head about, shining the bear's tree. I saw 2 snakes coiled directly below him. The pearl black of their eyes, blinkless and cruel. I held the stick out toward him, and he grunted and shifted. "Easy, Elmo," I said. I used the tip of the spear to flick the 2 snakes off the limb. As I was doing so, I saw another just out of reach. I'd done what I could, so I backed up until I was on firmer footing again. The bear kept his eyes on me. Closer now, I saw something yellow dripping from the edge of his mouth. He was sick. I guessed he'd already been snake bit. "Hang in there, Elmo," I said. While I was out on the limb with a different viewpoint, I made a quick scan of our own tree. I saw a larger snake above us and out of reach, but I didn't say anything. Maybe it was best the girls didn't suspect what I was starting to realize. There were snakes everywhere, and they were going to keep coming. Chapter 29. When I returned to the girls, I saw their skin was covered with the thin smears of chewed juniper berries. Liza had been applying more of the paste while I was out on the limb. The wind and the rain was starting up again, and the swamp was growing darker. The stars are gone, Liza said. I didn't need to look up to see that the eye of the hurricane had passed, and the storm clouds were moving back over us. And I knew the second act of Igor, the messy trailing end of him, was going to be even wetter than the first. How much longer before daylight? I said. She pulled her hand from her lap and looked at her watch. It's 4 o'clock, she said. 2 hours, I said. She looked back at me as if waiting for some solution I'd thought of. 2 more hours and Dad'll come home and start searching for us. Sorry, I had to answer the phone really quickly. So, 2 more hours and Dad'll come home and start searching for us. She continued to look at me. She didn't say anything, but her eyes told me what she was thinking. I didn't need to make up anything with her. She knew better. Wait till, will the storm get worse? The wind will change directions. It should start blowing some of this water out of here. Liza shifted and drew up her knee. Suddenly she yelped and kicked outward. I waved the light over to her leg and saw a cottonmouth hanging and whipping from her heel. Francie screamed and twisted against her. I leaned against the trunk and swiped at it with the spear. Liza was kicking wildly, and I missed twice before I was able to connect enough with the snake's body to tear it loose. She pulled her leg back under her and gripped her heel tightly, her chest rising and falling in deep breaths of panic. Francie was hysterical again, and Liza instinctively pulled her to her. Darn it, I said, trying to hold myself together. Darn it, hold on. I knelt and fumbled for the glass shard. Hold on, I said again. I brushed my hand over it and felt the glass slice into my palm. I winced and found it again and pulled it from the split. I sat and hung my legs on the outside of the platform and reached for her foot. Let go of it, I said. I'm in trouble now, she said. She rocked and moaned and held it and didn't seem to hear me. Liza! She let go, and I put the light on her heel and saw the 2 fang marks oozing something milky and bloody. I held her ankle tight and sliced quickly from one puncture to the other. She yelped and jerked, and I pulled the heel back to me. Then I leaned over and sucked and spit the poison. Liza managed to calm herself for Francie. Shh, she said to her. It's going to be okay. Look, Court's fixing it. But I felt her leg trembling, and I knew she didn't believe what she was saying. I didn't want to think about whether I believed it or not. Francie stopped wailing, and I hugged her tightly. Did you get it all? Liza asked. She asked me in a way that didn't sound like she really cared about the answer. There was no way to get it all, but she didn't need the truth. I tasted it, I said. I got a lot of it. What's going to happen to me? I don't know. Yes, you do, Court. You know about this. She was right. I did, but I wished I didn't. And that's the end of chapter 29.